Senator Paterson.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Employment, Senator Cash. Can the minister update the Senate on the Victorian Government's latest attack on Country Fire Volunteer Authority volunteers?
The Minister for Employment, Senator Cash.
Well, thank you, Mr President, and unfortunately I can, in particular, given the irony of the fact that it is actually this week Volunteers Week. And you can see those on the other side, they clearly do not want to hear about what—
Order, Minister. Order. Minister, you have the call. Order, your microphone is turned off. Order on my left. Senator Cameron, can you at least draw a breath at some point? Minister, you have the call.
Thank you, Mr President. And as I said, I am disappointed that I have to update the Senate in relation to the attack by the Daniel Andrews government on the tens of thousands of fantastic men and women in Victoria who put their lives on the line every other day of the week to keep Victorians safe. So what the Daniel Andrews government is now doing is, instead of working towards a new enterprise agreement that recognises the important role of the volunteer firefighters, do you know, colleagues, what the Daniel Andrews government now wants to do? They actually want to split the CFA. They want to split the CFA. Why? Because they want to satisfy the disgusting demands of Peter Marshall and the United Firefighters Union. But, colleagues, what did the Daniel Andrews government also do? They actually brought in, those on the other side will know this, Simon Crean. They brought in Simon Crean to try and negotiate a settlement. One might say good on them for trying, but guess what? Simon Crean himself was so dismayed and so disgusted at what the Daniel Andrews government was doing that he was unable to do it. And then you have a look at the Victorian Minister James Paterson, who is misleading, and Senator Mackenzie knows this well, who is misleading those in Victoria in relation to why they are not finalising the enterprise agreement. Again, given the irony, colleagues, this week is actually Volunteer Recognition Week. Volunteer Recognition Week. Well, I can tell you there is nothing that the Daniel Andrews government is doing to recognise in any way the fantastic work that the tens of thousands of men, women and in some cases even some children do to stand up and protect Victorians.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Paterson, supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. It's disappointing that those opposite don't want to hear what's happening to our volunteers in Victoria, but we do. And so I have a supplementary question. Can the minister outline what measures the Turnbull government has taken to protect volunteer organisations like the CFA?
Order on my left. Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. Yes, I can. And senators will be aware that, in fact, the very first act of the Turnbull government on being re-elected to govern was to move to decisively protect the tens of thousands of men and women in Victoria, the fantastic members of the CFA. And I have to again extend my thanks to those on the crossbench who joined us in standing up for those fantastic people. What did we do? It was actually very simple. All we did was ensure that enterprise agreements could not contain objectionable emergency management terms. All that does is prevent emergency services bodies from being able to support their volunteer operations. On this side of the chamber, we will never shy away for standing up for the good men and women of Australia, the people who really do make this country. We are proud to do what we did to ensure that the CFA in Victoria can continue.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Paterson, final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Is the minister aware of any further threats to volunteer organisations arising out of enterprise negotiations?
Senator Carr. Minister.
Well, unfortunately, Mr President, yes, I can. And when you listen to the howls from those opposite, yet again you can still see that despite everything that has gone on, despite all of the fantastic evidence that we've seen in relation to what the tens of thousands of men and women in Victoria do to protect Victorians and their emergency service bodies, they yet again stand here and they mock them. They mock them. You look at the Leader of the Opposition, who during the last election campaign couldn't go anywhere near his home state because he knew—
Pause the clock. Point of order, Senator Wong.
That is an inappropriate imputation. We were not mocking the volunteers concerned. We were mocking this minister who's gone off the budget because she's too ashamed to defend it.
Thank you, Senator Wong. There is no point of order. Minister.
Thank you. And as I said, Mr President, isn't it disappointing that even in a week that is specifically set aside to celebrate our volunteers, to celebrate the fantastic work that they do, the Daniel Andrews government in Victoria, but alongside the Labor members and senators in this place here, they still refuse to stand up for the honourable men and women in the CFA in Victoria. Well, on this side of the chamber, we'll back them every step of the way.
Thank you, Minister.